Chris, you've made some moves. Would you go through the process of what you did today?
We designated Brian Shaw, brought in Tyler Anderson. Tyler's been throwing really well down in Charlotte. He had a really good spring training. Brian, he was with us last year, and his greatest strength was his availability and taking the ball, and we certainly needed that and appreciated that. But we're at the point where we want to get a look at Tyler Anderson, and excited that he is here. Yoán, we put on the 60-day IL, and now we have gained a little bit more information on Yoán, and I think we're a little bit more optimistic on a return than initially thought, which is positive news. In addition to Yoán, Louis is another one that is trending really well, and perhaps is going to be back sooner than we initially anticipated. And then we have Eloy, who, throughout this weekend, we're going to up his intensity from a running standpoint. And then hopefully we can get him out there and start playing. So that's positive news on the injury report side. And then bringing up Zach Remillard for Oscar just gives us a little bit more flexibility on the infield, a right-handed bat to help balance some things. So we've got some new faces here. Had to go through some transactions, but look forward to the series in Cincinnati.
Can you give us the new timelines on both those guys?
Yoán, our hope is sometime after the All-Star break, in all reality, and Louis, it's looking more like the kind of 6-week mark for return to play. So that's obviously positive news, and we'll take that because those guys are impactful players for our major league club, and it's better when they're out there than when they're not.
Chris, a little mind-boggling to you that they work hard, but they've gone through this so many times in their career now, and it's tough for you guys, but it's tougher for them.
Listen, these guys, when you have injuries of that significance, it's heart-wrenching, and I know that there's that period of that you're down and disappointed, but you've got to be resilient. You continue to focus each day on getting better, and those guys are determined to come and get back healthy as quickly as they can. And as an organization, you look at trends, and both within the league, and then White Sox trends, and the beginning of the year is a higher risk time period. That everyone knows that. That's been in this industry from going to spring training to in season, and whether it be player travel and different schedules, getting higher intensity game action coming from spring training. But in terms of like the full analysis, obviously we need a little bit more time. You look at your off-season training, you look at your spring training ramp-ups. You look at hydration, recovery, sleep, all those areas that go into the analysis for injuries to prevent the future. Years ago, or not too long ago, we were hit hard with hamstring issues, and thankfully, knock on wood, we're not dealing with hamstring issues. And you look at around the league too with some of the elbow injuries, the arm issues. That thankfully we're not dealing with right now, but other teams have injury issues that need to be solved and are working on that. And in the meantime, we've got to show up each day and continue to work hard with the group that we have, and I know our staff and players are focused to do that.
Chris, you talked there about kind of team-wide what the approach is going to be and trying to figure that out. Have you looked into those players specifically? Obviously, those three guys have dealt with injuries their entire career, and similar ones to this, running bases, that kind of thing. Do you have any insight into kind of why those guys keep having these kind of things happen to them?
Yeah, it's going to take more time to kind of dive into that. Obviously, they're some of these guys are dealing with recurring injuries, and when you have an injury, you are at higher risk of having a similar injury in the future. That's tough for players to accept and understand, and organizations as well. And it's our job to prevent something like that happening. Overall, it's my job to build an organization that is resilient to injuries. Every team deals with them, and obviously we were hit with them here recently. But moving forward into the future, you've got to build out an organization to be able to take on some of these injuries and build out depth. And we've certainly begun to do that, just so when you're hit with them, you can continue to fight and compete and be as good as you can be.
How do you stay away from the blame game? Because 3 years ago when Herm retired and the organization replaced Alan Thomas, there was, fingers pointed in certain directions that, new technology had to be used to help the athletes here. As a newer general manager, how do you make sure that you don't fire off too fast into assuming things?
Yeah, I mean, you need to take time to analyze this properly. You do, and now, whether it be injuries or any sort of struggles or an adversity that you're hit, it's important for your leadership group to stay together and be strong. When you're analyzing trends, obviously you've got different data points that need to go into the analysis, but it takes a little bit more time than 2 weeks into the season to assess accurately, so you can make sound decisions in the future.
You have to keep a level head and positivity through all this, but do you understand and sense fans' frustrations and aggravations, especially when it comes to those three players too?
No, I understand. I think probably most of the frustration from fans is probably our early season struggles from a win-loss standpoint. Obviously, when certain players get hurt, I know they could be disappointed because they're potentially their favorite players and they're no longer out there. So I certainly can relate to those frustrations, both personally in the position I'm in, but also for a fan of other teams as well and in other sports. So it's my job to be able to plug in different players and continue to go out there and compete. That's really all we can do at this point.
You mentioned you got some more information on Moncada's injury that led to that. What can you share about what did you guys receive that led you to feel more optimistic than you did before?
Yeah, I mean, initially, you go through your usual scans and with an injury like the one he's dealing with, there's the medical team is pretty broad, both inside and outside of the organization, and sometimes you go outside of the baseball realm and you look at other sports industries, and maybe there's a common theme in another league, and in this case we were able to do that, and came to the conclusion, or I should say the estimate time of return. Through those conversations, we were able to estimate an earlier return than we initially thought.
So you got some other people to look at the scans and understand.
Yes.
And then you were talking about, at least when you talk about like a 6-week return to play, is that kind of at that point you feel like, and I know these are loaded questions 6 weeks ahead of time, so reading that into it, is that something where you guys feel like at that point, 6 weeks from now, you'll be able to go on a minor league rehab stint, or is that when you?
That's
feel
built
like,
in.
Built in.
That's
Okay.
built.
Okay.
With Eagle, the initial census he was trending towards a return, maybe without an ILO stint, and the indication was kind of he had a setback. Just kind of how's his progression gone from this early days?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a setback. More so, just need a little bit more time for his groin to heal, and we don't want to send him out into game action without knowing that this is fully healed. So we don't have a recurrent recurrency to that injury. So we just want to make sure this is behind him when he comes back.
Plateau would be a better term.
Yes, I like plateau.
Okay.
Chris, when you have only 2 weeks into the season, you only have 2 wins. How do you judge what this team can do or will be able to do with all the injuries and what you need to get done?
Yeah, I mean, watching these games, just like our fans and you guys, there's been some heart-wrenching losses because they've been really close. We've got a lot of one-run games, extra inning losses that are hard and they're difficult and they're challenging. But this group is competing. The makeup of our clubhouse is strong. And I say that when you're hit with adversity, whether it be on-field struggles and losses or injuries, it's a tight-knit group that's going to continue to work. And all we can do is stay focused and continue to show up every day and put forth our best effort. It's my job to continue to motivate everyone.
What's the plan with Clevenger? When is he going to start throwing in the minors? Or I know he's in Arizona now, right?
He's in Arizona right now, and then we'll get him to Charlotte, shortly to continue to build up.
Do you see him coming back relatively soon, or I heard you say that he was already working out?
Yeah, I see him joining in the next couple weeks.
As far as the COPEC plan, is it up to your manager, your pitching coach, your staff, or is it a collective between you all the way down with them as far as how to use them, how to bring them along, what eventually he will be?
Well, I think he's shown fairly quickly that he's very comfortable in the bullpen and has leverage ability. What he showed the other night in Cleveland was outstanding. It was really fun to watch, just seeing him grow, in the bullpen role. But I leave it to Pedro and our staff how they want to deploy, our pitchers. Obviously, there's a fair amount of prep that goes into leveraging certain situations. He's a guy that's shown that he's valuable in any role in the bullpen at this point. So it's exciting to watch and look forward to getting Michael back out there in a really important situation.
I guess my question is, would you rather have him 3 to 4 times a week for an inning, or twice a week for up and down? Would that be come into play when you guys have your get-togethers and talk about his progress?
Yeah, I'd like to get to the point where we can use him in most leverage situations, games to perhaps get us a win at the end of the game. But sometimes there's situations where coming in earlier is a more important time to use Michael in terms of the frequency. Obviously, he's still fairly new into transitioning into the bullpen coming from spring training. So you want to be wise in how often you're using someone, and a lot of that feedback is just gained by Michael and how his body's recovering.
Garrett has obviously had a lot of success in a handful of starts so far. What's your guys' approach in terms of a guy who hasn't had a lot of innings prior to this season? Is the idea to let him go every 5th day for the rest of the year, or do you guys have a decision to make down the road? What's the approach?
Yeah, at least in the interim, we're going to let this guy go. It's been outstanding so far with Garrett. Every time he takes the mound, I think everyone feels like we're in a good position to win, and I'm always interested how he's going to navigate lineups, and he's been able to navigate every lineup that's been going against him. At some point, I would imagine that we're going to have to be a little bit more measured, but we're not at that point right now. I think we appreciate the heck out of what Garrett's providing to this team right now.
But you said in Cleveland that the quality of bats just haven't been there in the way you want, especially without 3 main guys right now in that type of firepower. How does this offense have to operate to thrive or runs together?
Yeah, fundamentally, it really doesn't change in regards to giving consistent at bats and understanding situations that are in front of you. Pedro did a good job, the last couple of nights in terms of double steals and tacking on some runs here and there and getting runners over from second with no outs. You've got to be creative at times, and I think that there is a level of creativity with this group, but it really starts with just the quality of the at-bats 1 through 9. You look at Grossman and what he's provided at the top of the lineup, the amount of pitches he has seen, the ability to get on base. He's able to get some hits as well. There's some comfort with him and what he's providing right now, and you hope that bleeds into the rest of the lineup. Andrew Vaughn had some really good at-bats Wednesday in Cleveland, so we hope that's trending in the right direction. Gavin Sheets has had some he's really stepped up in crucial moments, hitting doubles and hitting for power to help tack on runs. So it's in there. It's just a matter of having it 1 through 9 on a regular basis and putting us in a good position to finish off games.
What's the future you see for Oscar here? I know he was only planned to be up a short time this time, but do you see a future for Oscar here?
I do. Oscar, he took the assignment well when we sent him down. In spring training, his at-bats were solid in spring training. He was much more patient, much more under control, and intelligent on the field, which was obviously nice to see. He's continued to do that, down in Charlotte, and we've tasked him to stay on that track, and at some point there'll be, an extended opportunity for him.
When do you see Max Stassi coming back off that rehab assignment?
He just took a swing off his hand. He's that's something that now he needs to recover from. It's not significant in regards to a fracture, but it slowed it down a little bit. We want to get him to the point where he can catch back-to-back games. His body's recovering, and before we bring him back.
We know that Paul DeYoung was raised in a great organization, has great skills, been a great pro. But he said, you can't make that first out with nobody out at home plate. We've always been told you can't make that first out at third base. So where can you make that first out? I guess that's the question, because it just seems like, and it's not fair to pile on him for that situation, but it kind of stood out, and I'd never heard you can't make that first out at home plate. So.
Well, I very much a loaded question there, and you rarely want to make outs ever. I'll give you that, but that was a situation where they've got a very talented middle infield in Cleveland, and it was a sharp hit ball to the left, and obviously he took it to second base and turned that double play, and I know that as a base runner with no outs, regardless of what base you're at, you've got to be mindful of getting doubled off. So you don't want to get too far from the bag. But what comes with that is, you're not further down the line as you would like, because you need to protect yourself from getting doubled off. Just so happened it was a sharp ground ball that took him to second base, and Paul looks up, and all of a sudden he wasn't able to run home there. Unique situation. He's a very smart player. He's not gifted as an 80 runner, but he's a steady base runner, and that was a fairly unique situation that we're learning from.
Chris, when Jerry introduced you last fall, he talked about wanting to win as quickly as possible, and you constructed the roster you think that would get you there. Can you give us any insight as to how he's feeling, reacting so far here, what those lines of communication have been like?
Well, I mean, we certainly prioritize certain areas to improve on this team, and on the defensive side and the pitching side, and feel pretty good about that so far. Obviously, it's really shown well in our win-loss record at this point, but this is, it's really about staying the course. This isn't something that was going to be turned around overnight. We're determined as a front office and a leadership group to continue to go out there and find talent on the amateur side, continue to develop players, to put them in the pipeline to eventually help our major league club. And we're tasking our major league staff to maximize the talent that we have. I mean, that's what we're focused on right now. And we have support to do that because it is the right plan.
Brad Keller pitched in Charlotte last night. You have Nestrino down there. Do you see an immediate solution for fifth starter down there, or are you kind of piecing it together turn through turn still at this point?
Keller threw last night. He threw well. We've got a couple options. We're not there quite yet to pencil in our fifth starter, but we're nearing that point, and we've thankfully got a couple of quality options.
What's the report you're getting on Colson down there in Charlotte?
Colson's doing really well. Defensively, he's been making some really good plays. That's been a high priority for the organization and for Colson. His at-bats have been pretty solid. He's showing up every day, and he's really becoming the overall professional we had hoped, and look forward to watching his progress unfold there in Charlotte. But he's doing well.
And I've well said that a player like that will let you know when he's ready. But is there a benefit too he hasn't played at Charlotte until this year that high, right? So just let him go for a while there and see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, regardless of where he was starting, from an assignment standpoint, it's a more, starting the season healthy and, getting a complete season in, which he hasn't done yet. And it just so happened to be at Charlotte, and he's off and running, playing on a regular basis. And, I still believe that he'll let us know when he's ready, and we won't be scared to bring him up when he is ready.
When do you purpose to put him down there with Churchley, who's your assistant infield coordinator, being one of your top? Was that kind of intentional defensive reps with him kind of something you mapped out?
Not necessarily. I mean, Church does an outstanding job. He's certainly one of our best on the player development front, and to have him being around Colson on a regular basis is definitely a benefit of the organization. But I could say the same thing about any of the affiliates and the staffs that we have for our players down there. But yeah, Colson, is deserving to be at Charlotte after what he did at AA in the Arizona Fall League, and he's shown that that's the right decision so far.
So what type of GM are you when it comes to frustration watching the game? Do you throw stuff? Do you, how does the anxiety and the agony impact you? How do you deal with it?
Well, there's certain aspects of the game that you focus on more than others. I know what we prioritize in the off season and continue to prioritize during the season, and you got to make sure that you maintain that focus, and we're carrying out what we were set out to do. Like most people, you'd like to win ball games, so it's disappointing when we don't get wins, but from a big picture standpoint, I want to feel like we're on the right track, and that gives me plenty of confidence and calms me through kind of the ups and downs that can be given to you in a baseball season.
So you do throw things.
Yeah. Yes, that was a long-winded way of saying it. I throw the Bobby Knight chair once in a while.
Hey, Chris, back to Moncada. Is there a new timeline with him?
I think it's we expect right around the All-Star break, just after the All-Star break at this point.
Thank you, Chris.
We all silly like the mayor.